I, Rigathi Gachagua.
100 days since taking over office as Deputy President of Kenya, Rigathi Gachagua is already facing the heat. His utterances have been viewed as discriminatory and inflammatory.
There is a Deputy President who, some of his utterances could border on polarizing the country. Because if there is one thing the hustler narrative tried to do, was to do away with the ethnic mobilization as the single most philosophy in political mobilization.
It does not seem to differentiate a politician during campaigns and a politician who has gone through a successful campaign and got into an office.
As Mathira Member of Parliament, Gachagua was arrested by the DCI over graft allegations, with the courts freezing his 200 million shillings. Gachagua has maintained that this was the result of a political witch hunt by the previous administration. However, political pundits argue that his utterances smack of sour grapes against former President Uhuru Kenyatta and Azimio leader Raila Odinga. Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja becoming his latest target.
So you do not need to really wake up and sleep singing and talking about a person who is not in office in the name of a former president. You do not need to have an agenda of a competitor, somebody who only in the name of Raila Odinga, who was participating in the last elections and lost. So you need then to change your approach. So it is not about honesty. It is vindictiveness. It is a person who stuck in the past.
President, to have the comfort, the wisdom, and to forget the hurt and the injuries he got in the last election. You saw he could not even hold himself during the swearing in. We had visitors, but he still, you will call that being a honest man. But you see, in politics, sometimes you don't need to be too honest when you're saying the truth. When I talk about honesty here, honesty is a virtue. But when you are brutally honest, sometimes you end up getting enemies.
Remember, if you look at the President Ruto's utterances before elections and after elections, they are two totally different statements.
Already, Bumula Member of Parliament Jack Wamboka is threatening an impeachment motion against Gachagua, arguing that the DP is sidelining the rest of Kenyans.
Definitely, it will be a little bit of a political tussle, if at all it becomes anything serious. But there's no possibility that they will be able to impeach the Deputy President.
Last week, a cross-section of Luhya leaders warned the DP against his verbal attacks against Sakaja. There are arguments that he is seeking to replace Uhuru Kenyatta as Mount Kenya kingpin.
First of all, he's winning Mount Kenya unto himself. What he wants to do with them, of course, is an open guess. But that particular bit, it's also important that the president goes in. I don't know how he will stabilize that, but it's quite a delicate balance.
I think the Deputy President is having a 2027 political calculation. In his view, if the mountain were to come together and still work with the same formula that they applied now with President Ruto, then if there will be competitors in 2027 who will be vying against President Ruto, then they will still have that support.
Pundits are arguing that Ruto was guaranteed of the mountain votes regardless of the choice of running mate. Alleged plans to reconcile President William Ruto and former President Uhuru Kenyatta could alter Rigathi Gachagua's game plan, which analysts say is geared towards the 2027 elections.
So Rigathi Gachagua is, as of fact, the senior most ranking politician. He's the Deputy President. And he needs to fill those shoes. He needs to take over that office. He needs to galvanize this particular seat. And that is why his talk seems to be more focused on this political base that he wants to bring on board. But if I were him, if I were to give him unsolicited advice, and if I ever met him and told him what he ought to do perhaps, he can have this discussion of his political support and Mount Kenya business in boardrooms with these people. Then he can come out as a nationalist so that out here is able to unite Kenyans, is able to come out as an office of the Deputy President for the Republic of Kenya.
Should the former and the current presidents agree to come to the table, a common sentiment is shared.
Sending out the Deputy President, for me, I know it's not diplomacy, but doesn't look politically wise, because in many ways, if you're going to send Gachagua to speak to Uhuru, you are giving Gachagua this larger-than-life position to reach out to him when the president speaks to the other president directly.
Martin Opio, K24 TV, Nairobi.